everyone. Welcome to another episode of Yale College Voices, where we dive into the wonderful projects of our staff here at Yale College. And today I have a wonderful guest, Samantha Gambardella, who is the Assistant Director of Operations for Timothy Dwight College. So welcome, Samantha.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to read your bio and then we'll just have a conversation as always. So Samantha Gambardella has been with Yale since August 2019. She first attended the New England Culinary Institute in Montpelier, Vermont in 2008, graduating in the summer of 2010. After graduation, she moved to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York, where she had the privilege of working at some of the city's finest restaurants. From there, she relocated to Colorado to continue her career as a chef while pursuing her second passion, snowboarding. After 5 years, Samantha returned to Connecticut and took on the role of executive chef at Terry Lodge in New Haven, a position she held for 5 years before transitioning to a management role in Yale Dining. She started at Pearson Dining Hall. Woohoo, Pearson, I'm a fellow. Later moving to Ben Franklin and Pauli Murray, and eventually becoming general manager of Timothy Dwight. After several years in Yale hospitality, Samantha had the opportunity to serve as operations manager at Timothy Dwight College, where she has been for nearly 2 years. And during her time at TD, she married her husband, Greg, received a title change to Assistant Director of Operations, and has grown deeply passionate about the life and culture of Yale College and its students. So again, welcome, Samantha. We had like scheduling back and forth, and I'm so glad that you can join me today.
I'm so glad we're finally here together.
Yeah, awesome. So just to start off, we talked about where you grew up in North Haven. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. My family is from North Haven for a long time now. My grandfather and his siblings, actually, my great-grandfather, Gaetano, came from Sicily.
Oh, wow.
And he worked Ellis Island, and Penn Station is where he kind of started his career here. Mm-hmm. And he settled in North Haven and bought a huge plot of land. Really? Broke it up amongst all of his kids, his 4 sons, and they all opened up farms. So we are from North Haven farmers for a long, long line, and I still happen to be there with my husband. So I'm happy to still be in the area my family is mostly from.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. So what kind of farming? Like just all different types?
My grandfather did produce. One of his brothers was more of a dairy farmer. One of them raised animals for, And they had a farm stand. They sold their produce and their vegetables. And literally a very long line. Maybe why I got so passionate about food later in my life.
That was going to be my next question. Like, is that where it all kind of started for you?
I think so. I think I just had such a close relationship with food that it just kind of seemed so natural. And I did feel like throughout my career that I always went back to gardening because that was like the root of where it all stemmed. And I love growing my own food. So it's like growing it, cooking it, eating it, the whole full circle. It's such an amazing experience. Yeah. And it gives you so much joy knowing that you've done it all.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And so, I always find this so interesting with all of the episodes I've recorded with everyone, that there's always something from childhood that just feeds into, their careers. And it's, so your passion, like tell me more about, did you have to work on the farm? What kind of things did you do?
So when I was a little girl, my grandfather used to give us little Chinese takeout containers, the plastic ones, and he'd put dirt in the bottom and stick little seeds. So like we would bring them home and we'd let them sprout, and then we'd put them in a pot, and then eventually you'd have your big tomato plant on the patio that was, but I think from a really young age, it was just a super passion. And we lived so close to my grandparents that I was able to walk to their farm right after school, and I would just sit there and pick green beans and eat them and raid the raspberry bushes. So I loved spending time with my grandfather and hanging out in the farm, and that was kind of like our thing, that we would just hang out down there and mess around. So I think it kind of got instilled in me in a really young age. And then I had a lot of older influences. My father's best friend was a chef. Just a lot of people that enjoyed cooking, and it was something that I did a lot. My stepmother cooked a lot. My mother is a huge. She's obsessed with cooking.
Really?
Yeah, she is. And we're very Italian, so it's just something that was always really baked into our family and what we did at home. So it just, like I said, it just kind of all happened so naturally.
Wow, that's fascinating. Like, was there, like, did you have a favorite thing that you either liked to cook when you were young, or that your mom or stepmom cooked?
So when I was young, probably ramen noodles.
Really?
But as I got older, I love making fresh pasta. I love making sauces, stocks, soups. So I do a lot of that. So like we'll roast a chicken, we'll take the bones, we'll make the stock from scratch. I'll make the chicken noodle soup. So it's just like everything from scratch, start to finish.
So cool.
Yeah, and I think it's it's something that a lot of my family members do. But pasta, we love making pasta from scratch.
See, I don't know how to do that.
We'll have to do it sometime.
I know,
I would
right?
love
You
to
should
do.
have
It's
a
so easy.
Yale College cooking class
Oh,
or something.
that would be awesome. Let me know.
I know. We should figure something out.
All right.
Like, were there like certain experience, like, so the cooking part, but also there must have been, you mentioned your family and having a large family, so it must have been like, it's just that coming together.
Yeah.
It's an event, right? Every time you have a meal, it's a big deal.
It is, and it makes it feel like a holiday anytime you're sharing a big meal with family. So those are your favorite memories, or the ones that stand out. They're the ones that have like the most emotions connected to them.
Yeah.
So I think it just reminds you, it gives you this warm, special feeling, and then
Oh, that's so cool. And so growing up, like you said, you could go to the farm after school and do all of those things. So what was the transition like going, into high school and later years?
So as you just learned, I worked at McDonald's for a little bit in my high school, my high school career there. But it was really, I worked at a restaurant, and as soon as I turned 14, I got a job as a busgirl, illegally. But I was making $4 an hour, just bussing tables. So I kind of got into that restaurant life and kind of got a taste of it as a really young age. I was always in the kitchen, always asking to learn how to make the sauce, how to make the pizza dough, to teach me how to stretch it. So I was really involved in that at a young age. I worked there until I was legal enough to get a different job, at which point I worked at McDonald's. So I did that for a couple of years. So I was always around food. Obviously, McDonald's didn't really. But it was an amazing place. The owners were some of the kids I went to high schools with parents. So it was really family oriented. We all went to school together. So it was fun staff. But it was... For me, kind of high school was it was all so homey, and you knew everybody, you were around all the time. It was moving to Vermont, which was like the coolest for me, because I grew up on this farm in North Haven, but you're so close to the city that you're always in the hustle and bustle. And living that life. And then I moved out to Vermont, which is like farm country, and it just slowed down so drastically. And it was just like, oh my goodness.
Was it a shock? Like, sort of like, wait a minute.
It's kind of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Really? Oh, interesting. What drew you to it? Like,
the mountains. I'm obsessed with mountains.
Really?
I like to be outdoors.
And snowboarding.
Yes, I'm a huge snowboarder. So there's a lot of bigger mountains out that way. We grew up camping from as really young kids. My parents always took us camping, so we were outside a lot. And it was just like, there was hiking, there was biking, everybody was outdoors 24/7. You never needed to look for somebody to go do something. Everybody was always outside and super active. So it just felt like all the passions, the things I loved, were at arm's reach away. And then everybody shared those same passions, and it was so easy to do the things you wanted to do because you were so close to, Camel's Hump Mountain or Mount Mansfield, or all these things were so close to be able to enjoy. Wow. So it was really great.
So what attracted you to, you went to the Culinary Institute. So what it sounds like you knew somehow, right? That's what you wanted to do?
I did. I actually only applied to a handful of culinary schools. So I knew that I was going to culinary school one way or another. So I had decided that pretty young. And in high school too, I guess I took all the home ec classes. I took every cooking class, that and auto shop. So I knew I was going to use my hands one way or another.
Nice.
I was very into, to doing things. I loved education and studying and knowledge, but I had to be busy.
Yeah,
I wasn't a very good sit still and pay attention kind of kid. I was like, let me go do it and learn and touch and feel, and that's how I'm going to gain the thing. So I just kind of, I think I was already driven towards that kind of activity or hobbies and whatnot. And then because cooking was so prominent in my young life, I think it just, drove me straight to culinary school.
Nice. I was always jealous of, kids in high school because my school didn't have like home ec and all that stuff. And I was like, I want to learn how to, cook and do, or like you said, automotive, like so I can fix my own stuff on my car.
I can change my own tires, but I'm still working on spreadsheets. No, I've got them down now, but
Exactly. That's so cool. So what, was there an experience that, while you were at the Culinary Institute, what was that like? And like, what did you like about it?
I feel like I grew up a lot in culinary school. I mean, obviously you're really on your own for your first time. Culinary school was interesting because you're with people who are your own age, who are in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, people who have cooked their entire careers. So you're really like, you're getting involved in a lot of different walks of life, and you're learning. I mean, I felt like I learned about people for the first time outside of like the comfort of home, just like different personalities. And I was with people from California, Colorado, Minnesota, I mean, Virginia, you name it. And so you're with people from all over. And it gave me this desire to want to learn about places and people and things. So I think that definitely played into my later life a lot. But when I was there, I met as many people as I could. I did as many things. Like we went on so many hikes. We foraged for mushrooms. We went to go find these natural, hot springs and so it's just it kind of inspired me to have as many experiences and as many fulfilling experiences as I could find around me.
Oh, that's so interesting. So it's as you were describing this, and don't ask why, because I love. We were talking about cooking shows as we were walking in. Yeah. But do you watch like of course. People must assume you like shows like The Bear and all. Is that what it's called? Is it The Bear or Bear?
I think it's The Bear.
The Bear. Okay. Yeah. So people probably assume like, oh, you must watch that all the time, or do you?
So they do assume that I watch it all the time, and I will say in the beginning of my career, I did a lot more. I love the show The Bear. I actually watched 2 episodes, and I think it was when the knife got dropped under the counters in the kitchen and the tip broke off or something. It just triggered, and I shut it off for like 8 months.
Yeah.
But eventually I went back, and I think that show is great. What I don't do very much anymore is watch cooking shows.
Yeah, really.
So when you've done it for 14 to 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week for 15 plus years of your life, you just kind of get to a point where it's like, I don't want to go home and do this as well. So people are always like, oh, did you see Chopped? Did you watch? Yeah. And I'm like, no. No, I kind of try to stay away from those things on my free time. So.
Oh, that's so funny.
So no, not so much anymore. But I used to watch it all the time when I first got involved. Yeah, I was very obsessed with
really.
What was it? The Chopped Challenge with all the master class chefs. The master class. Yeah.
Or what's the other one where they give them like some weird ingredients and they just have to figure something out? Or
why I'm drawing a blank on the name of it.
I forget the name of it.
Yeah, but except Morimoto was always in Cat Cora. Oh my goodness, I loved watching them. They were incredible.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So what? I saw that you left after you graduated. And you worked at, like, what were some of the experiences you had with restaurants, or what were your favorite experiences?
New York City was incredible. So I was really, really fortunate. I had an incredible time in culinary school, and one of my chefs really believed in me, and he got me set up with some people out in New York to do some stages. So I was really fortunate to get that door opened for me. And I was able to trail at a couple of incredible restaurants, and I happened to land a job at one of them, Del Posto, which is in Chelsea District, right across from the Chelsea Market, right directly across from Morimoto's restaurant. And it was just like, I knew I wanted to go to New York and work in an incredible restaurant. Like that was like, that's the dream. That's what you want to do as a chef, right? And that's how you kind of make a name for yourself, I guess, in a way. And so I got the job offer. And so, as you saw, I lived in Bed-Stuy. I lived in I think it was like an 8-foot by 4-foot walk-in closet, for lack of better terms, on the second floor of a building that shared one bathroom for the entire floor. It was, I think, $350 a month, but if I paid 3 months at a time, it was less. And I mean, I just graduated culinary school. I was doing this on my own, and I was determined. So I was like, this is my place. One of my friends who graduated a year before me actually gave me the landlord's phone number. And he was like, it's not going to be great, but it's going to get you to New York. So I rented it, and we did it. It was crazy. I couldn't believe my parents were both like, you're insane, but also like, good for you for just doing it, figuring it out and going for it.
How long did you stay there?
I stayed there for about a year and a half, until the point where I couldn't live the way I was living anymore. Really. Yeah. I spent most of my time at work. Like I was working like 16, 18 hours a day. You'd go home, sleep. But it was almost a relief to not have to be home. So it kind of helped wanting to be there. And then I got close with the catering chef, so I'd do events all the time on my days off. And I worked really close with this woman, Tama, who's incredible. I wonder if she remembers me because I think about her all the time. Really? She was the saucier, and she made all of the stocks and sauces. Nice. And I think that's where my passion for stocks and sauces started, which probably is why I like to make pasta so much, because you need it for them.
Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah, it was New York was an incredible experience. And in the second it was over, I was so ready to be done.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, do you visit occasionally?
I do. So my husband and I try to go down at least once around the winter, Christmas time and see the lights and all of that. I try to go down for dinner here and there, maybe catch a play once in a while. So I still go down. Obviously, in restaurants, the faces and the names change so quickly and so frequently that I don't have as many connections down there. But I worked for one amazing man, Andy Nusser, for over a decade of my career, who owned Terry Lodge. And so Del Posto is a part of the B&B Hospitality Group. It's Battalion Bastianich. So I worked for Mario Batali. I don't say that often, as I don't like to do. So but Andy was really my boss, and he was my go-to guy. And he still owns. So he owns Casamono in New York City, which is a 2 Michelin star restaurant. Congratulations! He just got a 2nd Michelin star not that long ago. So I still have some people down there that I love to go and visit. And so
oh my gosh, I find that so fascinating. I've always, and it's funny. Like I said, like my son and I are pretend foodies, so we, I somehow on my like social media feeds, I always get these, I forget what it's called, but they have like these dinners where you can like, if you want to buy the whole, 7-course dinner and go to this mysterious place and have a, Michelin chef. Is that the correct? Okay. Making sure I use the right lingo, have a chef prepare the whole meal for you. And I'm like, that is one of these days I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah. I always say the one thing I love to waste my money on is good food. So just let me know if you're interested. I'd love to go.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. And then after you did that, and then you came back to Connecticut and as an executive chef, what was the transition between that and Yale Dining? Like what changed?
So a lot changed within the company. So like I said, Terry Lodge was also part of B&B Hospitality Group. I actually moved from New York City. I moved out to Colorado.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of amazing cooking at incredible restaurants, and I was snowboarding every day, and it was great. And I was there I was only supposed to stay for one winter. Oh, wow. And then I decided to stay for a summer, and then another winter, and then another summer. And all of a sudden, 4 years had gone by.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I think it's time to go home.
Really?
So I reached out. And I was looking online, and I saw this Terry Lodge restaurant, and I saw it was B&B Hospitality, and I reached out, and I was like, I worked for them in New York City, and I'm ready to come back to North Haven area or New Haven area, but I really want to do something I'm proud of. I've been doing things like since New York City and in Colorado, I've been really proud. So this
like continue that.
I'd like to continue on this path where I'm like, I don't want to just like go home and work at a restaurant just because it's a job and whatever. Right. And I heard back from them, and they're like, that we've been dying to find a passionate sous chef for one of our restaurants. And it turned out that I kind of already had known some of the faces and the players in the game. And then I met Andy, and I think the rest was really history. Really? I was the sous chef with a man named James Pixillo, who was Piccolo, apologies, who was incredible. And we worked together for a few years, and then they opened up New Haven, and I said I don't want to go there because I was born and raised here, and I was
really?
like, no, I was out in Westport, and I was like, no, I don't want to go to New Haven. So
Really?
they brought on somebody else who was also an amazing chef within the group, and he did it, but he felt like he had been with the group for so long that he just wanted to try something new and fresh for himself. And it had been a few months, and I said, all right, I'll give it a try.
Really?
So they sent me down to be the executive chef at the one in New Haven, and I stayed for almost 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
The big moment, I think, was there was a few things that happened. I like to say it was COVID.
Oh, yeah. Life-changing for everybody.
It was definitely life-changing, but the truth was, but Mario Batali got in a lot of trouble for a lot of really terrible behavior in New York City, and being a female chef and somebody who prided myself on, doing things that I was really, I guess redundantly, proud of. I couldn't stay, and I had no idea what to do. The thought of starting at a new place and like learning a new restaurant and a new group and doing it all over again at that point kind of seemed like that's not really for me right now.
Right.
But I was so scared because it's all I had ever done, and I was kind of getting older now. I think I was 27, 28. So I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And my mother actually advised that I start to look for jobs around Yale and see if there was something in the hospitality department that seemed. So I looked at the positions, and I kept thinking about applying to the union. And at the last minute, I applied to a management position that I saw pop up, which I'm really glad I did. So the union's incredible, but I think, and I would have been really proud to have been a part. I've made so many hundreds of friends that still work there, and I miss them all.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. But I'm glad that I went on this path because it put me on the trajectory to really make a huge change in my life, which I did not see coming.
Right.
So, so it was a great move, and I'm really, really lucky I got the opportunity to get into Yale. I really felt like
this is the place. It
was a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. And what, when you transitioned to Yale dining, like what were some of the memorable things, what was one of the first things that let you know, like, this is where I really want to be?
Ooh, so I'll tell you at first, it was really, really hard. And I think for this is a great conversation to have with you of all people. I didn't know if I belonged here when I came here. So with it being hospitality even, I still felt like I'm this rough and tumble chef who just kind of is, just rough on the outside, but, great at what I do. But I didn't think that I belonged around all these Ivy League characters all day, every day of my life. So it was really, I wasn't sure that I wanted to stay at first.
Really?
Yes. I apologize.
Wow. No, it's okay. I get it.
It's a lot. I don't really think, you don't think about it all the time.
Right.
So I wasn't sure. It took me a good year to get kind of used to the change and to feel like, I could do this.
Yeah.
But the work was really incredible. So I came on and I got adopted in really, really quickly by like the culinary side of things, and I got put into the roles of helping develop menus and training new cooks recipe testing and doing the trials for new cooks that we were going to hire coming in and kind of sitting on the panels.
Oh, that must be interesting.
So
I'm curious about that. I'll ask about that
it actually
later.
got really fulfilling really quickly. It was so at first I was really scared, and I didn't know if it was going to be fulfilling, because when you go from a chef who's in the trenches every day to like wearing a clean chef coat, and it's never going to get dirty, it's just like, what am I doing? But then I started doing all of these projects, and I was like, okay, there's a lot of value here, and I can bring a lot to the table. So that made me feel great, and that's I think when I really felt like this is something I can do for a long time.
Oh, interesting. Which must have been such a change, because like you said, you're in the trenches before, and then it's totally different perspective, or different part of work, right? Like, and like you said, like that feeling of like, do I belong here, or what's happening, and like the intimidation of, it's Yale, and the people around me, and did you feel like and I've mentioned this to guests before, where when I first joined Yale, it was I was always on my P's and Q's, like of what don't say any wrong, don't say anything wrong. Don't, I don't want anyone to think I'm stupid or I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah, I felt like that a lot. I felt like I was like holding my breath and not saying anything because I didn't want to misspeak. And I remember one manager who helped train me, he kept like grabbing my shoulders and he's like, loosen up, be yourself. Like, you're going to be like, you're fine. And it took me at least a full year before I felt like I took like,
right.
Like that first deep breath. I was like, everything's fine. They're not going to kick me out the back door. I'm here.
Exactly. It's like I made it past a year, and oh, that's
but it was
awesome.
it was. I think I put too much pressure on myself. I'll be honest now that I think back on it, but it was a huge learning moment. It was a huge change, and I'm so happy that I stuck it out and that I feel so comfortable in this environment now.
Yeah,
because I don't think I'm going to go anywhere.
I know,
right?
Same. I'm, and it takes time, and I think it's important for especially like new staff to know that it's different, but that feeling of even though it's different. Like you do belong here. Like you were hired for a reason, right? And
exactly.
Yeah, or someone saw that potential in you, and
I think the name Yale just it has this stigma with it, or this instant, this feeling of like, am I good enough?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, and even. For those, I don't really know what it's like for those who don't live in this area, but I know that, growing up in the area, it just. Yes, it's a prestigious institution, but it being when you're on the outside looking in and you hear about it on TV or it's portrayed in movies or whatever, and you have this like vision of what it must be like working at Yale or being part of Yale and it's intimidating like when you first come in the door. It took me a long time to just be at ease and like, I can talk to people, it's okay.
Absolutely. Well, you start to realize that a lot of people went through the same things and they've on the same journey as you, and they're there to support you. Right. We're so lucky to be in a place this big because there's so many people around to kind of connect with. And we have a huge community.
I know. It is pretty amazing. And I think even with, doing this podcast has been awesome for me because I don't get to connect with many staff, because of the work I do, unless there's a problem. I don't hear from anyone unless there's a problem. I have a problem or a question. How do I do it? And so I don't get to connect with a ton of people unless we're working on a project or, whatever's going on. So it's been really nice for me just to, like have a conversation. Like I never knew, I never knew you were a chef. And I'm like, that's so cool. When I read that, I just find it fascinating too, just to hear, how you grew up. And like I said, there's that common thread with everyone. It's really interesting how it was always something. So far, I haven't seen anyone that just totally took a left turn, but for everyone, it was like something from childhood that just kind of, had them on this trajectory. And it's really fascinating. So what, so you were in Yale Dining and then, so you worked in several different colleges, right? So Pearson, Ben Franklin, Pauli Murray.
So I started in Pearson, and so that was like my trial. I was on probation. So I had 90 days to prove myself, and that was the only thing that I think I could focus on was that I had 90 days to pass my probation.
Really?
I think I brought it up every day.
Like a countdown, like a timer.
Yes, and then about 10 weeks in, I don't even know if it was 10 full weeks. It might have been closer to 6 weeks in, one of the big bosses showed up and he said, I'm sending you up to Franklin and Murray, which is the biggest or the busiest of the two dining halls. They're a double unit, so you're doing both of them at the same time. So this was like... Yeah, so I looked at him. I said, "Does this mean I passed probation?" And he just laughed. He said, "No, it restarts when you get there." And I honestly, my face must have gone white. He's like, "I'm just kidding. Clearly, you're doing a great job. We're going to send you up to Franklin."
Oh, that's so cool.
So it was a huge kind of pat on the back, and it made me feel really, really good to have had that opportunity. And the team there is so incredible that I was so excited. I mean, Pearson was wonderful. I always say Pearson first. Pearson first and foremost in my heart. Right. That's where I started. But I spent a lot of time up at Franklin and Murray after that. So I really got to become a part of the staff. It's where I kind of really got comfortable in my skin here at Yale, and we had a lot of good times and a lot of laughs.
Really?
So Franklin and Murray, it was like a really special time for me here at Yale.
Awesome. And like, what kind of, because being part of the staff, we always see like the end result, right? We see the food and we eat it. So, which is always, I'm like, God, the food is always amazing. And but we never really see the other side. So that's the interesting part. Like that's kind of, at least for me, like I always see the end result. So what is it like behind the curtains there?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of organizing and planning. We use a system. I hope I'm not telling Yale hospitality secrets. But there's a system called Yamix, which is a menu management system. So first you need to decide so I'm sure you've noticed every couple weeks the menu repeats. So you have to decide how many weeks long it's going to be and then plug in the breakfast, lunch, and dinners and try to make sure that nothing's overly redundant and you're not serving chicken 5 days in a row so people aren't like, oh, I'm sick of this, give me something else. So you spend a lot of time kind of organizing that, and then every one of the 14 colleges is a little bit different. So we do what's called forecasting, where they kind of project how many people will eat for lunch on a Wednesday or dinner on a Thursday or a Friday, a Saturday, Sunday. So you do that for every single meal period of the entire however many weeks long the cycle is. And that kind of gives you an idea of how much you should be ordering of your food. Obviously, everybody's already got a storeroom and a fridge and a freezer, and you don't want to order things and waste them. So you're constantly kind of making your grocery list and looking to see what you have, adjusting, placing your orders, and then they come to the back door. You've got to make sure you've got what you need. Everything came in right. Sort through it, put it away. Make sure everybody knows what is theirs, what dishes they belong to. Have their recipes. So you have to print everybody their recipes, give them out to the staff members for who's responsible for what. We have meetings every single day to talk about the menus.
Interesting.
And make sure that you're not overproducing, that there's not tons of leftovers. If there are leftovers, how are we going to reutilize them and turn them into something new and delicious, and not be like, oh God, they just put yesterday's leftovers out on the line for us to eat. What's going on here? Try to have as little waste as possible. Obviously, because we are green as a university, sustainability purposes. But so you're doing all of that while serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. So it never stops.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, I'm sick today, so I'm not going to come in, because if the cook doesn't come in, the food still needs to get cooked. So it's the only department where there's really no chance of saying, this is going to wait till tomorrow. There is no waiting. It has to happen today. It has to happen by a certain time.
Wow.
These guys work so hard. They are so dedicated. They're so incredibly amazing. And they care about the students so much.
I always see that every dining hall I've been in. You see the connection,
So
which is so cool.
I feel like what the community gets to see is like that one moment of like, that's when they get to take the deep breath. It's like, all right, everything's done. Put the food on a pan and like, let's take a minute. So all of the, so we always say it's like a duck floating on the water, but it's like the legs are constantly ferociously kicking underneath, right? That's what it's like working.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it's an incredibly rewarding job, and everybody who does it, they're all, like I said, they adore the students, and they're happy to make sure that they have great nutrition to go study and be the best that they can be, because they are the best that they can be.
That's so amazing. And it's interesting that I'm glad you brought that up, because like I said, we see the end result, right? Like if I happen to visit a dining hall like once out of, several weeks, and it's like, okay, I got some food and it's great. But the behind the scenes, it's just going and going and going, and it doesn't stop, because the dining halls have to be open and ready for students all, well, not all day, but, every day at certain times. And I mean, that is really amazing. So I know a little bit of that, because so for several years, my mom used to cater. Okay. And, it was like all hands on deck, She didn't hire staff. She just had kids, who would work.
Absolutely.
And it got to a point where I was like, oh no, she has another event, because it's exhausting. Yep. And I couldn't do it all the time. I can only imagine, and like you said, they're amazing staff who, they're connecting with students and doing this to make sure students are, fed and nutritious meals. And That's so cool. So tell me a little bit more, like when you moved on from general manager of Timothy Dwight, and then you became the operations manager. So what was that like?
It was, again, I was back in that, unfortunately, that like, do I belong here? Am I good enough? Do I deserve this? So this was my first time ever not cooking or, leading as a chef manager. So I became a sous chef really, really young. I think I was like 22. I became an executive chef, I think at like 23 or 24. Wow. So I was really, really young and responsible for a lot of people and a lot of things. Staff, money.
Right.
Produce. Yeah. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in a restaurant.
Yeah.
So I think that I got really comfortable in that role, and I didn't really ever envision myself doing something else. But I had gotten married, and things kind of started to change. Thank you. And you're still working. I mean, not that it's much different, and it's not as, but you're still working long days, obviously, because breakfast, lunch, and dinner need to happen, and you need to support your staff. And so even as a manager, and definitely as an employee, it's still challenging work, and there was an amazing opportunity. And I thought maybe, so I had a lot of long conversations with a lot of people about, what I can bring to the table, who I am, what my abilities are. I mean, catering was my absolute favorite thing to do. So like catering, you don't have electricity or running water or like, so it's tons and tons of planning. So like I come with a lot of ability to host large events, plan large events, organize large amounts of people. But I still, like, there was so much unknown coming into this new job. I had not a great concept of all that I would be responsible for. Yeah. What they did tell me is that I would be more or less responsible for a budget, not in a sense of like don't overspend, but like you're an accountant in the sense of so that really scared me because that is not something I had a huge background in. But I've always loved numbers. My dad was obsessed with numbers, and I think we just kind of, it was something we always related on. Just as much as my mom loved to cook, my dad loved numbers. Really? So we'd always do like math games and stuff. So I think that naturally I take to numbers really well, and I was really it took me a long time. It took me a while to figure out Yale's way of like spreadsheets and the way things look.
The way things,
But I got it down pretty quickly, and you're working with a much smaller staff. It's much more intimate. That was also a little bit hard because I'm like, anything that needs to get done, tell me, and I'll do it. And I'm fast, I'm efficient. Right. People don't want you to do that in this environment. They're like, no, that's my job. Like that's not, and now you're making me feel like, am I not doing it fast enough? So it also it was a huge learning curve for me to kind of slow down, read more carefully, take the extra time, kind of, pay attention to the minutiae and the small details. Not that you don't do that in the other jobs, but, it was just it's
different.
It was a much different. I mean, I'm sending an email to 450 Yale students who probably grammatically are far more superior than I am. So it's like, oh no, they're going to pick me apart here.
Right. Oh, I know that pressure,
You start to get to know them, and you start to get to know the job, and you start to get to know your surroundings. And I was really fortunate to move from one side of TD to the other side of TD. So I was already kind of comfortable in the atmosphere, and now it just feels like this was the perfect move. This job is amazing. I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. I absolutely love it. I love working with the students. I love, I like being able to have the time to have the conversations, the meaningful, it doesn't feel like I'm constantly running, or who needs me or what needs to get done. Right. But we do really meaningful work, and we do a lot of it, and we make a huge impact on the experience the students have at their time at Yale, and that in itself is just so magical. Yeah. So this has been, something I asked my poor husband. I almost didn't take the job. I was like, I really don't know. Yeah. I got really scared at the last second. I was like, no, I think I just should be cooking.
Yeah.
So I was really, really proud of myself for doing it. And it did take a little bit of growing pains, but nothing near, I don't think, coming to Yale. And I'm really proud of myself for doing it.
So, that's amazing, as you should be. That's so awesome. Like when you talk about your experiences with students, so I want to step back to your time, at the Culinary Institute and things that helped you, along with that process, being in a new place and everything? Like, how do you find that you're taking sort of that experience and it feeds into how you interact with students?
Absolutely.
Really?
I feel like it was always kind of my job to be a mentor and to be, even in the chaos of everything, to be patient and to listen. I think that from my experience of being a cook, I hated that I wanted to learn, but nobody felt like it. Sometimes it felt like people didn't have the time or didn't care to spend the time.
Yeah.
So I always made sure to do that as a chef, to kind of slow down and teach. As my motto is always, I'll teach anybody who wants to learn or cares to learn. I hated trying to teach somebody something if they we've always been there.
When they don't want to hear it.
But with the students, it's similar, and I feel like I always I apply a lot of that, but it's so much different in the sense of I feel like I'm the one learning. Like they have so much to they're so bright and there's so much to gain from them. So as much as I'm guiding them and making sure that I support them, I get so much out of so much fulfillment in just listening to them talk and asking them questions about their days and their classes. And it's just like I feel like we're feeding each other.
Yeah.
Which is really,
so
really exciting.
It is. And I think that's what makes it special here, is that, everyone, again, like everyone I've spoken to, it's kind of the same kind of relationship where it's not just you telling students like, oh, here's some advice, here's what to do, and here's how, here's how to make some decisions, but it's a two-way interaction and where you're both kind of learning from each other. And it's really cool.
And in the very beginning, I'm very used to so in the industry, it's a very yes chef mentality. So if you're asked to do something, it's like yes chef, and then you go and do it.
Yeah.
These kids, so they want to know the answer to why every single, like, if this is the answer you're giving me, how did we get here? What decisions were made? And I was not used to being
question.
Really, I felt like challenged in a sense. And I was like, because this is what I said.
Because I said so, like what I tell my son, right?
Yes, right. Because I said so. But now I've grown so much and I've learned, so now it's it's kind of fun to banter with them and to kind of, they challenge you, you challenge it, but it forces you to kind of think bigger and better about all the topics.
Right.
And it challenges them to kind of bring more to the table for the conversations because they know that it's not going to be easy, right? We're going to go tit for tat. We're going to challenge each other. We're going to talk about it to nauseum, but we will agree on something. And I think that I try really hard to give them all opportunities to do the things that they're really passionate about. I might put them through the ringer a little bit, which I learned from my previous boss. But I think that it's fun. I think that they are happy to have the engagement. They don't want a simple yes or no. So it's really, it's kind of grown me a lot. Yeah. And you just start to develop these really fun relationships with the students.
Absolutely.
They're like your little business partners.
Yeah, they really are. And that's what I find fascinating too. Like even in IT, I try to engage more with students, my interns and so on, because it does give you a different perspective versus, oh, this is just what we're doing, and you really think it out a bit more, like, oh, well, how do the students see it, and I think that really helps kind of guide your job a bit, right? Or what your work, I should say. Absolutely. Let's see. I had a few more questions for you, and look at that, we're already.
Oh wow!
Right. Yeah. Let's see, like what in your current role, like what is a day? I imagine your days are different every single day, right? Like what is a typical day for you like?
So again, and I'm sorry to keep doing my flashback here, but again, as a chef, you walk in, you're prepping the exact same food, the exact same recipes. Your menu changes seasonally, but I always explained it to be Groundhog's Day every day. Where in this job, I have no idea a lot of days what my day will hold. And every day is fun and exciting, but it could be anywhere from there's a leak because of heavy rains to the student council is planning the formal. So we're going to meet and look at some locations and decide what fits best. We're having an event, so we need to order some special catering for it. there's some liaisons that want to have an outreach gathering, or, there's a bunch of activities for students to sign up for community service opportunities. So sending out notes to the community, letting them know that these things are happening. So I do a lot of student meetings. I handle all of the different spaces throughout the college, like the art studio, the recording studio. We have aides that are responsible for them all, and I touch base with them depending on who needs who needs something any given day. But we're always planning activities. So like we'll do an art pop-up where the students are all welcome to kind of do some scrapbooking. I think we did last, or we did friendship bracelets at the end of the very end of last year. So we're always planning little events. What else? I do obviously a lot of budget work, making sure that we have the money to
do all this
to
stuff,
do the
right?
events throughout the entire year. And then just managing the offices, making sure that the students have everything they need, that everybody's got their keys, that they're not locked out, that their badges are working, they have swipe access to the spaces that they've got a whiff and poof audition tonight, and they need to set up in the lounge and make sure they all have access on their badges to get in and out. So it is a lot. It's many hats, but it keeps it exciting.
That is exciting. Literally, I envision you. It's like, oh, I'm just juggling hats. Like let me take this one. Oh, they're both on.
It's what it feels like some days.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And what? I know you mentioned your, working with students and your experiences with them and learning from them. Yeah. But is there something in addition to that you enjoy the most about your job?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I enjoy the most about this job, actually. I enjoy that I have the time to breathe and to think, and I enjoy that there's things that I'm doing for Timothy Dwight College that will be around for a long time. So it's kind of like I'm trying to enhance the college to the best of my ability, but also knowing that those things will be around for generations to enjoy. Kind of feels like you get to kind of leave your touch. So students for centuries might never know who I am, but I'll know that I did certain little things for them that they could enjoy through their stays of living at Timothy Dwight.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing, because some may not even think that far ahead. Like that you're contributing to their. I mean, this is their home away from home, and it's so important. You're feeding into their belonging. And feeling like, because I can only imagine students who first come here that they go through exactly what you were feeling, like, what am I doing here at Yale? And
God, I can only imagine.
And just all the pressures of that, and that feeling of maybe, I don't know, isolation, or whatever they're going through, and I think that's what's so, when I go into the colleges, and I'm not there for long periods of time. I'm literally like, oh, I fix an issue and then I some sort of tech, but not always, but I try to visit, and I think it's just so important, because it changes the experience for them while they're here. And if you didn't, if you weren't here, like you said, if you didn't put something in place, or, create something that to make it feel more like home, it would not be the experience that it is. And it wouldn't, Yale College wouldn't be the special place that it is if we didn't have, people like you to do that. No, I'm serious. I mean, when I hear about the work that goes into all these things, like, I'm just thinking back to all of the guests. I mean, it is really amazing when you think about all these different aspects of what people do here at Yale College. And I don't know. I mean, it's pretty incredible, like all these different pieces that come together to create this life, for students here. It's pretty cool. And so if no one thanked you, I'm thanking you.
Well, thank you so much. But honestly, it feels like a gift to be able to have the opportunity to do these things. So it is thankless. I mean, no, not thankless work by any means. It is a job that doesn't need to be thanked, because it's just so enjoyable to do.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. And I think, that's what makes it so cool to be here at Yale. And I've talked to colleagues recently who are not from Yale, outside of Yale, and it's interesting when people are like, you've been, so this is going into my 18th year here.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
That's huge.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And, I find that, some of my younger colleagues are like, why have you been there that long? Like if I'm not happy, I move on, and it's like, yeah, but if you're not happy, then you have to figure out what you can change. Right.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it hasn't, it's been great. You know what I mean? Like,
there you go.
It's been great. I don't really want to leave Yale, like, it's like, no, I there are things that I really do love about being here. And that's what's really cool. Like you said, like you could just come in and just do your job. Right. And just, do the budgets, and set up stuff for students and just go with emotions. But you obviously have like this emotional connection.
I do. Yeah.
Which I think it just makes a difference, right? You can always tell when people are just coming in to do their jobs. Absolutely. Versus someone who's like they're literally affected by the work that they do and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's so cool.
I had my chef Andy Nusser again. He said if you're gonna twirl noodles, be the best noodle twirler that ever lived.
Wow.
And that like it seemed so like it really put things in perspective. On that day, I think I was having a mental breakdown about something, some staff not showing up or something. Yeah. But it really put things in perspective in that moment. But I always reflect it to life. Doesn't matter how big or small what you're doing is. Put all you have into it because it's your legacy, right?
Right.
It's what you're going to be remembered for. So even if it doesn't seem substantial, make it substantial for yourself. Substantial.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a great piece of advice. If you like looking back, since we're talking about advice, like would you what advice would you have given your younger self? Like knowing what you know now. Would you, when you first started out at the Culinary Institute, is there something different that you would have told yourself? Like,
maybe party a little less, focus a little more. No, I think I would have, honestly, and it's something that I've adapted to, read more books. Read as many books as you can. Just read more books. I feel like I wasted a lot of years of my cooking. I mean, there was barely time to sleep. Yeah, but I feel like I just wish I took more advantage in a younger age. So I tell everybody at a young age, and I read a lot as much as I can now. Read more books.
Interesting. Do you have like a favorite genre or?
I like autobiographies a lot. I like learning about the people that I admire. So I read a lot of autobiographies, a lot about chefs. Funnily enough, because I don't watch them on television. I do. I enjoy reading autobiographies. I think they're fantastic.
Oh, cool. And so what, if someone, if you, for example, if you met a student who's really interested in a career, whether it's in culinary arts or like hospitality management, like what kind of advice would you give? Or one piece of advice. No pressure.
So I would, because I don't like my answer, but it's my honest answer, is I would say don't.
Interesting.
I don't know. So my career was really rewarding, but you also have to give up so much. Yeah. Every family party, every holiday, every Sunday afternoon at the beach, you don't get to have those things. So find a way to do it that suits your life. Open up your own catering company, have a pop-up shop, do a food truck that you can have employees help you with. But unless you're going to be your own boss in the food service industry, it's really, really difficult to have any kind of healthy work-life balance.
Wow, yeah.
So figure out what that's going to be before you take any more steps into creating this career for your life.
That is excellent advice.
Thank you.
Because and it's so true, because it's like you said, like it's almost it's similar to like emergency personnel, right? Like you're always on call.
Right.
And like you said, holidays and special occasions and things that you miss out if you're really like hyper focused on the career part. And that's excellent advice.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. What about fun stuff? So tell me more about the snowboarding. Like, do you still do that?
We still do it. We just, thank you to having an amazing job that allows us to take vacation time.
Right.
We just went to the Swiss Alps in March,
my gosh.
which was like a huge bucket list. I think it's probably the most extravagant ski trip we'll
my
have
gosh,
ever take. We're going kind of settling down. But we just went to Switzerland to Zermatt, which is this little desolate town that you can't drive to. You have to take an electric train. They don't allow any vehicles.
Wow.
And it was just so we got to ski to Italy, which is my life goal is to make it to Italy. I've never been. So I've skied there and ate some lasagna on the top of a mountain. But
on the top of a mountain.
Yes. We just barely got to go into Italy, and then we had to ski back over to the other side. But it was like a huge moment for me. We love to snowboard. We have a little camper. So we really do things on a budget. So this sounds so extravagant, but we have a tiny little camper and we bring it up to Vermont almost every other weekend, and we camp in it in parking lots, and we make our little food on our burners, and
so cool.
we take showers at the rec centers, and we ski all weekend, and we come right back home and get back to work on Monday. We hike a lot of days after work. We go fishing. We just anything outside.
Really?
We just started picking up pickleball.
Oh, really?
So that's
so
our
many
new
people I know are into. Which I hear it's like fun, but I haven't gotten into it yet.
Our good friends gave us, so they invited us out, and then we got there to play, and then they gave us a set of paddles and a ball, and I was like, I feel like we're being baited here, but I guess we're pickleball players now.
Yeah.
So that's actually been a lot of fun. We do a lot of fun. So as hard as we work, my husband's such a hard worker as well.
Yeah.
We spend as much time as humanly possible enjoying just nature.
As you should. Yeah, you
that's our
should.
fun.
People, you forget, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you have
so
to
easy
enjoy
to say I'm
yourself.
tired, and there's so much laundry that needs to get done, and we have to grocery shop. And we're really good at throwing caution to the wind and just jumping in the car and going.
I love that. When you take the camper out, like, so you mentioned cooking, which must be pretty, I mean, your husband must be like, I got a chef, like.
Oh, he's so happy.
That must be so cool.
We love cooking camping. We actually have the most fun. I'll make like a homemade sauce and put some meatballs and sauce, and we'll freeze that and throw it in a cooler so you have a homemade pasta night one night. We'll make garlic bread on little buns or whatnot. So when we actually camp, I call it campfire cooking. We cook almost all of our food over the campfire. We actually don't bring we always have propane in our grills and whatnot, but we try to do as much as we can. So we always we do like fried dough. We make steaks on the fire. We throw our baked potatoes right in the coals and let them slow cook. And so we do most of our cooking, camping right on the fire. It's like a fun challenge. We
really
we
now,
give ourselves.
Is your husband also like into cooking, or do you do most of the cooking?
He likes to cook. I think I'm a little aggressive in that area, so I do most of the cooking. But he builds me what I need. So my husband's
that's so cool.
He's amazing with his hands. He's a carpenter. He's a jack of all trades. I'd like to say he can do anything.
Really,
but he is definitely a carpenter.
That's so cool. That's a cool combination.
Yeah, so we have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. So you mentioned recording stuff too, right? Like, have you recorded like cooking?
So back in the day when I was working for Terry Lodge, I did a couple cooking segments on Good Morning America, I believe.
Really?
And maybe not Good Morning America. It was sorry, I think I lied to you. Our local,
like Good Morning Connecticut.
Yes,
or something.
Good Morning Connecticut. Thank you. It was not America, just Connecticut.
But that's cool too, though.
But I did some of those here, and then I did another one. It was a bit of a drive. I don't remember what news channel it was, but I've done a couple segments, and they're really neat.
Yeah.
But it happened so fast, and that's when I realized that I was camera shy.
Interesting.
Because I don't like being filmed that much.
Oh, interesting. That's so cool, though.
But yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
I'm fascinated by that, because I'm always like, like when I see someone doing a segment, I'm like, pause, like.
Yeah. Write it down.
Like I can't, because I can't do it as I'm listening, kind of thing. But I just find that fascinating, because I don't have, my mom is a fantastic cook. She's not a chef, but she's like a home chef, know. And she, I'm always fascinated. Like, she doesn't use recipes for the most part. She just like does stuff and it comes out amazing. And I'm like,
go mom.
I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I tried that and it didn't come out like that.
Oh.
I always tell her, like, I don't have that knack, I don't know how she developed it, but I'm always fascinated that oh yeah, just put some of that.
Yep.
And it comes out so good.
So I had to force myself to write a book of recipes. It's my own personal book, but I did notebook. Everything.
Yeah.
People would still to this day, they're like, "Do you have the recipe?" And I'm like, "Oh, I still have it up here." Yeah. But so eventually I put a lot of it to paper, but yeah, so I feel like it's a feeling.
Yeah. And I don't have it.
Oh no.
I try. My son will say, "Oh no, it was great." And I'm like, "You're just being nice." Like I'm okay, but I don't have the skill. Right. I wish I did.
We're gonna get you there.
I know. We
Yale
really
cooking
should,
classes.
We should do something.
Yeah.
We should figure out
about this.
Yeah, that would be. I would love to. What's and now I thank you so much. Just for coming and chatting with me, because I love having the opportunity to get to know you. Like, these are things I didn't know about you at all.
Yeah,
I think we ran into each other at the holiday party.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's exactly how this happened in December.
Yeah. And I was like, "You're going to be on the show."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Totally. I'm there.
Awesome. So,
no, thank you for having me. It was really nice.
It was my pleasure. And I'm fascinated. I'm like, I want to know more about you.
Oh.
Like, what, is there a fun or unexpected thing that you'd like to share about yourself that most people don't know about you?
Fun and unexpected things about me. I'm trying to think. I don't know if it's fun. I think I'm a runner. I've
really?
run like I'm a crazy runner. It's like my what calms me.
Yeah.
So I'm overwhelmed. I just take off for a 5-mile run. That's like my de-stressor. I wanted to be a pilot. That was actually my dream.
Wow.
I don't know how I ended up here.
Yeah.
And I used to be a cheerleader, which I feel like blows people away because they don't get that vibe from me. So yeah, I was a professional competition cheerleader for years of my life. I don't tell anybody about that. It's part of me. I just kind of let die. But I think it's a shock once you really get to know who I am that I did this for such a long time as a child. So yeah.
Oh wow, interesting.
But I think that's all I've got.
Yeah. No, that's pretty fascinating. What and we'll wrap up with this. Like, what in terms of what you'd like to do, not necessarily next, but what are some things that you would like to do in your current role that you haven't yet, or things that you're hoping to put in place or do for the students?
Absolutely. We have some spaces at Timothy Dwight. I hate for somebody to hear this and say, but we're going to make sure it happens. Mm-hmm. So we have some spaces at Timothy Dwight. We have some old computer labs that no longer are needed because everybody has their own computers that are used as quiet study spaces that I plan to, take the pulse of the population and see what the students think would be best and revamp them to become new student use spaces. So those are huge goals. And I think that they'll be tangible within the next year to 2 years. I'm going to say 2 years. I think we'll have them done. But that is super exciting. And those are bigger goals, bigger scheme items that I'm really excited about. And again, that's just something that you're going to know.
That it'll be here for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting for me. And then we've just been trying to maximize how much we can do at the college with what we have. So I've been really making a game of the numbers and seeing how much we can max out our activities for the year and just to see exactly how much we can make happen. And we're having a lot of fun so far. So
really,
so far so good.
Yeah. Well, Samantha, I do you prefer Samantha or Sam?
I usually go by Sam. I was actually fun fact. I was named after my grandfather, and there you go.
Got it. I meant to ask you, when we started, and I'm like, well,
so
Sam, Samantha.
It's always been Sam.
Sam, I'm this was so cool to just sit down and talk to you, and I'm so glad you made it, and just thank you for sharing, a little bit about you. And I hope that I would love to see, I'm serious, a Yale College cooking class.
All right.
I got to figure out how we can, because we always say oh, let's do this. And then time
and it
passes.
Falls apart. I know. Yeah. So I feel like this is something manageable that we could, we'd start with one and go from there. I think we can make this happen.
Yeah, let's
do
some
pasta and pan sauce.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Let's make it happen. Yeah.
This is a weird thing about. So I for a little while I tried those little home meal things, and I was like, this because I still am not a confident cook. And even just doing the little kits, I was like, oh, I can actually, if I follow instructions, I can actually do this. So yeah, one time it was some meal and it was like, that was the most amazing sauce and I can't figure out how to do it again.
You made it.
Yeah,
and you couldn't replicate it.
And I couldn't replicate it. So we got to figure it out. Let's
make this happen. I want to learn more about you now that I feel like
awesome.
You've asked me so many questions. I'd like to ask you some. So we'll have to cook some good food and have a good conversation.
Let's do it.
Another good conversation.
We definitely have to figure out how to do it.
Absolutely.
That would be so cool. I would love that. Awesome. So Sam.
Yes.
I am looking forward to taking a cooking class from Sam.
All right.
We have to come up with a creative name too.
All right. Well, I'll come up with something.
Yeah.
Saucy Sam's.
Saucy Sam.
We'll get there.
I like it. Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, this was so cool. And I thank you for just sharing about yourself and coming and I hope anyone listening to this episode, it's again, it's just showing how special our staff really are, and how we contribute to the students' lives here. And, I just think that's so amazing. And, like I said, if no one told you, you know how they say, if no one told you today, I love you, But no, I really, you're appreciated and that's amazing.
That means a lot.
Oh,
I think what you're doing here with your podcast is incredible. I think, is this an initiative you took on your own?
Sorta, kinda.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah,
I think
it started
incredible.
by accident. I
mean,
didn't plan on hosting it. I was really just, I was planning to just help with the technical side, and time passed and we had some funding from the secretary's office, and I was like, as time passed, I was like, okay, I have to show something, I wanted to show something for the time, and somehow I ended up hosting it.
That's awesome.
So thank you.
Well, without you, there would be no voices.
Aww.
So I think that's wonderful what you're doing. So thank you as well.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure.
I'm glad
This
we made it
was
happen.
awesome.
This
And
was fun.
I'm serious. I really want, because I need to learn how to make that sauce.
Oh,
So
I'm invested in making sure you learn.
awesome. I can't wait. Yeah, I'm on this now.
All right,
So.
we're gonna talk. We're gonna make it happen.
All right. Well, Sam, it's a pleasure. Thank you again, and I hope that our listeners, now they know who to come to make some great sauces. But not just that. Just again, I love that with your current role, but also your role with Yale Dining. There are things that we forget that happen behind the scenes, and what the kind of work that goes into what everyone does here. And I hope that listeners, just remember that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We tend to forget. We interact, but we don't remember all the behind the scenes stuff. And
there's a lot of members to the university and to the hospital. I mean, just Yale as a whole overall umbrella that makes it what it is, and every single person who's a part of that machine is just as important as the next.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you. We're going to end on that note. So
wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Doris.
All right.